Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday night. I feel like I've not been on in ages. I've missed you all, but I'm glad to be back. It's a Friday feeling on the bus. Celtic are back as well, so you know what that means. It's time for us to do a wee weekly preview. Looking ahead to the game this weekend, we've got Motherwell coming to town. We're heading into a very, very busy December schedule. A lot of home games coming up as well, so it's quite a nice change to be able to say that after the interesting fixture list we had at the start of the season. But yeah, there's a lot of home games coming up and a lot of games coming thick and fast, but they start tomorrow. I'm happy to say these words, and many fans will be happy to say it. No more international breaks until spring of 2024. What a huge relief that is. Yes, all Celtic all the way now for the next few months. And yes, here we are on the bus, and it's a Friday night. So, of course, it's our bread and butter. This is a regular thing. Myself and Liam on a Friday night. Liam, this feels right. This is our spiritual home, mate. And we're back on a Friday.
I know. This was our Bustalgia time, wasn't it?
I mean, last time, yes.
For you as well, you and Mark and Connor, Reagan. But it's good to be back on the bus. I hate international breaks. So to talk about, Phil, you and I. The bus has been ablaze. We've been silent.
I know. We've not had much to talk about all the recent events this week. I know there was a very, very good show through the week with Russell and Mark talking about the AGM and so on. And well, I say Williams just alluded to there, myself and him have been a bit quiet in the background. So I'm sure we'll have our say on it as well today. I don't know if we'll be able to do it quite as much justice as Russell and Mark did through the week. Be sure to check out that show. It was phenomenal. But yeah, we will have our say on it as well. And yes, we'll be looking forward to tomorrow's game. And a wee bits of Celtic news as well. And whether Liam likes it or not, he shall be playing by the numbers tonight at the end of the show. So you've got that to look forward to as well, Liam. But you've not got much of a benchmark to go. So far, we've had Mark and we've had David play it, and they did okay with the higher or lower guesses, but their questions, 2 out of 5, it's attainable. Liam, you could be top of that leaderboard tonight, mate. It's just thinking that you'd be top of the table, just like Celtic, mate. That's what you're going to be. I believe in you, mate. But before we do all that, of course, before we get to all that, folks. But maybe there's multiple choice answers as well. That sometimes will jog your memory when I read them out. You might go, oh yeah, that makes sense now. But before we get to all that, of course, all the fun and frolics, just remember, folks, do all that good stuff. Remember, hit that like button, helps us know. Algorithm CSC gets the Bhoycie Bus pushed into more people's recommended videos on YouTube. Obviously, hit that subscribe button if you've not done yet. The last time I checked, it was at 4,290 something. So it's motoring along very nicely. The next landmark would be 4,500. So, yeah, it would be fantastic to see get there sooner rather than later. So, if you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification, and you'll be reminded when the bus is on the road. Of course, get involved in our comment section tonight because we always like to bring the comments up during the show and interact with you guys. And, of course, you can share the link of the Bhoycie Bus far and wide on social media to help us out again massively. And, of course, head over to piesports.com. I'll still never get that right, whatever the logo is. Yes, and use the code BUS1888 to tell them that the bus sent you. Get yourself 12.5% off your tasty pastry treats. They'll warm you up very nicely because, my God, it's cold out there today. Liam, of course, you're in Canada, so cold for us is probably nothing compared to some of the winters that you see out there. But apparently there's an Arctic blast coming this way for the game tomorrow. It sounds like an ice cream cone, an Arctic blast. So yeah, I've got that to look forward to tomorrow at the game. But apparently it's going to be a very brisk 3 degrees tomorrow, 2 degrees at the game. But I suppose that's nothing over in Canada. But yeah, we will just crack on with it, guys. Because Motherwell are in town tomorrow. We begin a run of a very, very busy time of the year Christmas schedule coming up. And a lot of home games. It's nice to actually have a lot of home games coming up after that first 11 games of the season, Liam. The random fixture computer, as we're told, churning out a lot of away games there, but of course it all balances itself out now. And again, Liam, it is one of those chances that we've got in to play before them, because last season, actually, it seemed to be, again, the random magical fixture computer kept on churning out games where they played before us. Even on Saturdays, they seem to find a way to play before us. But again, we find us in a position we're currently 8 points ahead. Yes, I do know they have a game in hand, but I've always said points on the board is better than games in hand. So it is 8 points. There's a chance to go 11 points tomorrow. I mean, the speech or the team talk writes itself for Brendan Rodgers, doesn't it, tomorrow? There's all the motivation that you need there, because especially with their game coming up at the end of the month against them at Celtic Park, when we play them just a case of we just need to keep getting these points on the board and just putting as much pressure on them. So when we do play them, Liam, in 4 weeks' time or whatever, it's a case of it's win or bust for them. And they've shown they don't do too well under pressure.
No. See, tomorrow's all about momentum. It's about taking on stuff that's happened with Celtic as far as international break and all that. People getting recognition for the first time. Matt O'Reilly, that brings a buzz, a bit of a swagger back into the dressing room. I'm glad you mentioned the weather tomorrow as well. I want to see a big game for our Canadian boy Johnson. He's not been well. He's not played for Canada and he's not played well for Celtic. And I don't know. To me, that's I look at Scotland and Greg Taylor's now getting 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I think it's like the tailification of Celtic where don't know what happens. It's just standards completely dropped. So I will blame Greg Taylor for that.
You just find a way to blame Greg Taylor for anything.
So I hadn't had a rant in a couple of weeks about Greg Taylor.
Get it your system.
I think it's about momentum. And if we just keep going, we just become that juggernaut of a team that just keeps... I felt we had that momentum going during Ange. And we've had Rodgers before. I mean, we've had invincible seasons. So I think we just need to get that mindset back tomorrow. This is us for a wee while together before we go to winter break or so. I don't know if we have one this year, but it's one of the times to get
momentum. We've got one in just the last game before it is St Mirren on I think the 3rd of January. Then it's like a 3-week break, and then the next game after that's a Scottish Cup game. So we do have one. But up till the 3rd of January, we're pretty much midweek games, weekend games. It's jammed for the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Aye, so this next set of games, you've got to look at that as a chunk, right? This is probably what's important. This is the part that'll let us pull ahead for them. So no complacency, no guys taking holidays, nobody's brain wandering on. And we've sort of seen that coming into the game. So tomorrow's a good chance to reset all that and get it going again. Rodgers, get the Roger ball going. Brendan ball.
Brendan ball. We'll start as we'll normally do on the Friday film. We'll just have not go through every single position, but just some sort of key decisions there for Brendan to make. Because I say busy schedule, and he has said this week himself, talking about the transfer window and oh god, bloody transfers in Celtic. But yeah, I'll put more grey hairs on my head. He has mentioned that he wants to trim the squad because we have got a very bloated squad. A lot of fixtures coming up. There's maybe a chance here for a few guys to get some game time before maybe they are cast adrift in the January window, because it seems to make a lot of noise that there's going to be guys that are going to be pushed out the door. But we'll start with a guy that you highlighted. I'm glad you brought it up because I think we mentioned it the last time we were on with Mark, talking about Alistair Johnson's forum. And I said, well, Liam, you're now back on the bus. Maybe Alistair Johnson's forum will pick up because coincidentally, you've been away for a month and Alistair Johnson seemed to be dipping a wee bit. So hopefully he's back. But again, with Ralston, he came in, he played up at Ross County, didn't he? He got a game and he looked all right. Because my concern with Ralston is always I feel like he needs to be playing consistently to get up to speed. But I thought he came in, did okay there. But there could be a chance that Ralston does get utilised over the next 4 or 5 weeks because, again, we're going into a really busy schedule and rotation might be needed. And if Johnston's form isn't up to scratch, and as I say, it's not been fantastic. I mean, he's not the worst player on the park, but it's definitely dipped from what it was. Then if Ralston can come in and do a job, then it's not too bad. But do you think it will be Johnston tomorrow? You can just go with the strongest lineup, or do you think there is justification there that Ralston could come in at right back?
I'd love to see Ralston start because that's the sort of competition you need on the side. You need to be pushing each other. That's what I'm saying. It's complacency. It's just there's nobody pushing them for that spot, and those are the two important parts of their team. That's the two corners in the fullback, and that's where we'll get pressured there and we'll lose goals. Nobody's going to be pressing Johnson, I don't think. But right now, it just bothers me. It's no physical stuff. So it's no like he's coming back for an injury and he's being too timid in that. He just seems to be turning off. Yeah. He's on the side of the post or the wrong side of the player, and he needs to get that part of his game back. He was about defending. The other thing he needs to work in, I've not seen him put in a good ball lately. One thing Tony Ralston does is he goes end to end, and when he does get a chance to swing that ball in, no hitting the first man time after time after time. It might happen first 2 times, but the time he settles into a game, those balls are going across. And you just have to look at some of the old highlight reels and Ange's first season, the amount of balls that Tony Ralston whipped in for goals, not just as well as his own goal contribution. The other thing, he knows how to hit a ball. He hits the type of balls that our forwards like to run onto. Guys like Kyogo, Dizan, against Ross County. That ball that he put on to Dizan, the one that was got called offside, that Bo ended up putting in the first goal. That was an absolutely brilliant ball. And I've seen that ball again and again for Tony Ralston. And that's going to give me confidence in getting a run in the team. I don't think there's a player out there that's been as poorly appreciated or rewarded by the support than Anthony Ralston. And I go on about Greg Taylor and that, but if you look at it and you're looking for fairness or some sort of like, way to sort of balance it, you look at what Greg Taylor gets credited for doing is what Ralston does, but only much, much better.
Yeah.
But fall back and say, but then we'd have to play Burnaby. I wouldn't mind seeing Burnaby getting a run in the team because I've seen everything I need to see on that side. And I think it's coming to the same way the Ralston Johnson thing. Let's play him and let's see if we can get another Liam Scales out of Ralston. We already know players there. And it's up the arse to Johnson. Get yourself, you're playing for Celtic. This isn't Canada. This is no Montreal fucking Olympic or whatever you're playing for. This is Celtic. Playing against guys in Canada, and to think like any of them could walk onto a Celtic team, like they're having themselves on, Now, okay, we're seeing that. So, fucking hell, mate, start playing better. That's what Canadians are.
Well, funny enough, you mentioned Scales there. Michael Cairns gives him some very high praise for Liam Scales because I feel like every Friday I need to mention this guy because, again, there's a lot of fans that I still don't think can believe that this run is still going with him. But Michael Cairns says Scales is the new Maldini of Scottish football. Go on, lads. He's came back as a man with a destination now. During the international break there on my adventures on Twitter, I saw, I know there's a Celtic account out there, a Celtic podcast called The Cynic, and they've got on their Twitter, they're very good with doing breakdowns or analysis and scouting and stuff like that. And I found there was one doing the rounds, somebody must have retweeted it, and it was a Man United equivalent of one of the types of fan pages, and it was with a big breakdown of stats. It was 10 players that Man United should target in the January window. And this fan page had done a really in-depth deep dive on their number one player in their top 10 that's Man United, they were suggesting should go after, was Liam Scales. I was like, what? So it's if there are all these stats to back up. And again, I've even said myself, I'm probably going to contradict myself, but I'm a guy that's all about the eye test, essentially. I'm not too bothered about all these XG and stuff like that, but I do appreciate it has a place in the game. I know, especially for coaches and managers, it does have a place in scouts and all that. But obviously the stats are showing it. And also, Liam Scales does pass the eye test. And yes, even though I do wear glasses, they do function. Liam Scales has obviously came in and done very, very well. But yeah, I just stumbled across this Man U page that had a big in-depth breakdown of the 10 players that Man United should be going after. And they were recommending Liam Scales as their number one target. What a weird... You go for on loan at Aberdeen, not really got a future at Celtic, comes in the summer, he's getting games, to which most fans were like, how have we ended up with Liam Scales as centre-back, to big Man United accounts saying that they should sign him? What a weird, wonderful world football is, Liam.
Well, it's funny, I was saying that, so the last time we were at the Celtic club watching the game, I was saying it, one of the Irish guys watching the game with me, I says, you watch, I says, he's the sort of player that will end up at Man United. You get backs coming through for Man United over the years, guys like John O'Shea and all that, and pretty well coming out of the Irish league, and there's a lot of players that were coming in that are playing really well for Ireland, that Irish league that came straight into the EPL then. And Scales looks just like that part. So I always looked at the John O'Shea's and said, how can we not find one of them? We've supposed to have a much more stronger network of Irish scouts and people and all that. How are we missing them? Or are they just getting them really, really young? And I think we might have nailed it with Scales. And he's everything Manchester United. They love a big Irish fullback. Their DNA. Just like it is with us. Like a Sweden, the team again. Or get one.
You think about Dennis Ulwin, Paul McGrath, And you say John O'Shea and all that. Yeah, they have got a bit of a lineage of defenders from Ireland to Man U. But let's forget this way, Man United's a bit of a poison chalice right now. So if Liam Scales get to say stay away, other than the fact that the name of the club is like they're awful right now. But I did find it hilarious how in the space of a year he's gone from basically no future at Celtic to establish himself. Fair play to him in the first team, and he's keeping this run going. And you've got Man United fans calling out for this is a player that we should sign. It's like, wow. There you go. So he's getting noticed. He's getting noticed in places. So you've got to imagine that other clubs are taking note somewhere. So obviously, again, I think a new contract is definitely in the works for him. I definitely think there should be, because it looks to me like he's definitely a guy who can turn a big profit. And sadly, I hate to say him. We will talk a bit about the AGM because that's sadly the business model Celtic are working in. I don't particularly like it myself, but Celtic will be looking at it from that point of view, like, oh, we can turn a big profit on this boy.
Last night on the bus, they were talking about Marc Cairney and Regan Bhoycie and that. What players could we get 12 million? Who will be our next $12 million player? And everybody was saying Matt O'Reilly. I don't think anybody even mentioned Liam Scales.
Could you imagine? Could you? Wow.
Never know. Perfect for English clubs, you know. Yeah, like that part's still very much, you know, like a Shane Duffy type and all that. I mean, players like that. That's an ideal replacement.
Aye, well, you see, you just again, it's all down to what the other club's willing to pay, and you just don't know in this day and age with the world of football how bonkers it can be with some of the money, especially down in England. So who knows what happened there? But I do think a new contract would be deserved for the lad. I think, you know, we need to sort of protect our assets, and if the boy has got any decent sell-on value, then I think Celtic need to sort him out because see, he's in there on merit. The run keeps going. It doesn't look like he's getting dropped anytime soon. He brings good balance as well with being left-sided centre-back. And also Carter Vickers came back into the team after being out injured. And yeah, he's seamlessly linked up with him really well. So, and he only learned off of Carter Vickers even more. Think of it as well. Carter Vickers isn't even like this great veteran of the game that's been around for years. He is obviously older, but he's not like in his mid-30s or anything. But obviously the two of them are working really well together. And long may that continue. And yeah, we fully expect that probably Greg Taylor will start at left back as much as Liam probably wants to put his fingers in his ears and forget that one. But into midfield. So yeah, that's say international break's over. Obviously, a lot of players come back. And Matt O'Reilly made his Denmark debut, although it was a losing effort, I believe, to Northern Ireland. So less said about his debut, the better. But I do believe Denmark have actually qualified for the Euros anyway. So it might have been a dead rubber game for Denmark. So that probably explains why he was getting his first shot, really, because it was like it's a free hit, essentially. But yeah, I mean, he's now, if he's got in there, and I said this about Callum McGregor when Scotland qualified, as much as us fans, you know, I go off international football, can't be bothered with it, especially during the season. The players aren't always thinking that, and they're looking at these big tournaments and are like, well, this is a chance for me to play at a big tournament next summer. You know, it's a huge opportunity for these players. So they'll be coming back for these breaks knowing that their country's now qualified and they're in around the international setup. And it's a huge motivation for them to make sure they stay there. So it can only work out well for Matt O'Reilly that he's already now got his first cap. And there's now a tournament looming next summer. So he'll need to be keeping himself on the forum that he's on to make sure he is on the plane to Germany next summer, Liam.
We only have 4 or 5 players in that category. Because some of the rest are playing in Asia and North America.
Aye, well, true, aye. Although the Asian equivalent of the Euros is coming up in like a month's time.
Yeah, 3 in North America, so that's all CONCACAF stuff. And then we got players as well. But yeah, you know what? This is the time, right? You got players that want to be able to get a place. I mean, think about Mikey Johnson. That's weird how he still keeps getting games for Ireland. Anybody out there? I've not really watched Ireland play in the qualifications this year. How's he played? Does he look a player? You know, I've not really seen. Is it something that are we missing a trick here? And I know we've been through Mikey Johnson and all that, but like, Christ, what is in him that he keeps getting that chance again? There must be a player there or something. So I don't know. So imagine he'll be wanting to either go on loan or something to try and see if he can keep his place in Ireland. The fact that he can't even get in the bench at Celtic. That's interesting. Matt O'Reilly
appears for European games because he needs to.
I mean, Matt O'Reilly, Liam Scales, great motivation for them to, you know, try and get to Europe. Did Ireland qualify for Europe? No.
No, that they get beaten. I see their manager get sacked through the week. There's one, the bold Neil Lennon is one of the names that's doing the rounds, getting linked with the Ireland job. But I believe it was Stephen Kenny was the Ireland manager, but he gets sacked through the week. So they failed in their qualification campaign. But because they were in Holland's group, I want to say they were in the Netherlands group, definitely. I can remember those games between them. So they didn't qualify, but yeah, Stephen Kenny got sacked. But yeah, he is in and around the Ireland squad, which is weird given that he's not playing any competitive football. So, I mean, he's turning up to these Ireland squads just not match fit because he ain't getting any games for Celtic other than a fleeting appearance against Hibs off the bench a few weeks back.
Aye. Well, so it'll be interesting to see what that sort of motivation will do to the players as well. And same with the guys getting the call-ups. They want to keep tasting that, whether you're in a big tournament or no, just getting there and being part of an international setup must be great for the ego and your career and everything else about you, and the pride in your family. Like you see that Marc Cairney just like buzzing in that team 40, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, he did.
So you can see he's motivated. He's got really good goals, and more goals like that right now, like with these international things that we can get to motivate to get the best out of our players. Yeah, I hope that's what Brendan's doing.
Yes, and now they've got a tournament to look forward to for some of them as well. And like someone that is interesting as well, that for all the dislike that many fans will say about, cable international football, but we use the fact that they are internationals as a selling point. See, in case in point being Josip Juranovic, who every time somebody brought him up, they kept saying Croatian international. It's quite weird how it works sometimes. That always be the words like that. It's almost like Croatian international was welded on at the end of his name. Josip Juranovic, Croatian international. It was always the same thing. It came up. So I always find it interesting how the disdain a lot of us have got for international football, but we'll happily use the fact that they're now an international to basically hype up how good they are and saying now we've got Matt O'Reilly, Danish international. We'll just put that on at the end of his name every time. Steve will come in with a question for you, Liam, specifically for you. Is there any hope for the Kwon artist, or is that a ridiculous shot in the dark going horribly wrong? That is a crazy. He's only played, half a game of football and a friendly against Bilbao, never to be seen again. It seems, what a mad signing.
He looked rugged, right?
Yeah.
Right about him, I think the first 2 or 3 battles he got into, you could tell there was a bit of battle on the boy, and I really liked that. Oh, by the way, Croatian international is my safe word.
Yes.
I'd let the wife know that. Anyway, Kwon. Yeah, you'd like to see them, right? I mean, they can't all be duds, can they? I mean, Ange really good success rate, I think. I think we would have seen much more Kobayashi and maybe Iwata this year if Ange had stuck around, and maybe they might not look like the duds. Or I know it's just find a way to put them into the team right now. We seem to get our balance all wrong this year. The amount of midfielders we signed again. We never learned for that. And it's again, well, you can't put them in because Matt O'Reilly's playing great, and and it's that double-edged sword. Kwon, I don't know. Can he play left back?
I knew you were going to say they're going to single at that position, but in the midfield, of course, I don't think we're going to see Kwon dance deals. I don't know what's going on there. A loan deal somewhere in January might benefit him. Maybe he comes back a better player, or maybe he doesn't come back at all. Just one of these guys that we've just wasted our money on, which again wouldn't surprise me at all. But of course, we do have a gaping hole right now in the middle of the park, where every week this seems to be one of the points we have to talk about, because with Hatate being injured, Bernardo's had a chance. We've had David Turnbull starting games. Holmes started against Aberdeen the last time, and I don't know. When he got subbed off, I genuinely had forgot he'd been on the park. But he's in one of the positions on the park where sometimes it goes unnoticed, the good work he's doing in the middle of the park. Sometimes the midfielders can be, I don't want to say guilty of that. It's sometimes a good thing because they're doing their job quietly, but they're having a good game, but you just don't really notice it. But when he did get subbed off, I was like, geez, I forgot he was playing in that game. But yeah, like David Turnbull came off the bench and scored in that game as well. But I think everyone was queuing up to score in that game. Although, fun fact for him, I actually missed the last 3 goals because of the injury to Kyogo and the injury to Yang, where they were down for ages. And it was Baltic cold in the stadium that day. And when it came up to 89 minutes, I said to my mate Chris next to me, I says, see if he puts up 9 or 10 minutes stoppage time, I'm just calling it, man. 10 minutes go up. As soon as I stepped out of the stadium, roar from the crowd. So that was Tumble's goal. By the time I got around to the car where my dad was waiting, because he has to leave even earlier than me because of the blood clot in his leg, and he shouts out the window, it's 6-0, and I could hear the goal celebration music coming from stadium. I'm like, I've missed 3 goals in 10 minutes. What the hell, man? That's an absolute shocker I've played there. Terrible. I'm a terrible fan. Oh, shame on me. But yeah, Tumble did obviously get another goal. So again, from the stats point of view, he's got some decent goals this season, but who is going to fill in that whole permanent until Hatati's back? Because it seems like right now, Brendan Rodgers doesn't actually know who's going to fill it in, if it's Bernardo, Home, Tumble. It's a guessing game. I think that's the one position right now where nobody knows.
Right, so if you look at it for the club, right, who's got the most value? The one that we paid money for is Home. You know, Home's look. So if they're all looking at about the same level and all that, I'd play Home because that's the one that will get value for. That's the one that we want to develop, right? It's no sense developing, Bernardo if he's going to go back to Benfica or if he doesn't want, right? There's no sense developing Turbo if he's not signed it. Well, I don't even know if we want to sign a contract, but he's probably off to Motherwell or somebody like that, St Mirren, or maybe even a championship team. You know, I think there's that. Doesn't it look like it's it's not an open secret, you know. So I think I'd like to give Home a run. I like what I see on him. I think it's somebody that just needs to come into a game, and I think he needs a wee bit, just like Scales, you know, he needs sort of like a run in the team and just, you know, give me an extra game or two, see what it's like. Is he still barred?
No, he'll be barred for the. No, he's fine to play in Europe now because he got the red card in the first European game, and we've played. I say played. We haven't really turned up in much of them, to be honest. But yeah, he'd be eligible now to play against Lazio if he was going to get selected. He'd be back now for his suspension. So I think a straight red card is 1 game ban. But yeah, he would be eligible now to if Brendan feels compelled to play him for midweek coming up against Lazio, then he'd be there. But yeah, a good performance against Motherwell would obviously, you know, improve his chances of being there. Maybe when Brendan does pick the team, he'll be thinking about Tuesday night, because I hate to say this, I'm probably just kidding myself on by saying it, but once again we find ourselves in a position on Tuesday where it's win or bust. Feels like every game that goes by, it's like it's win or bust this time. Okay, we lost that one, but no, this time it's win or bust, and it's like we're still mathematically still in a chance of having European football after Christmas, but realistically, I don't think it's going to happen. But Brendan will not be treating it like that. He'll still have the mentality that we have to play the chance that we can do this, and he'll obviously pick the strongest team on Tuesday night. But yeah, he might use tomorrow as a chance to look at somebody to fill in, and especially that hole with Hatate still being injured. But sooner Hatate's back and back to his best, the better, no doubt about it, because he is still the outstanding choice for in there. And of course, I say McGregor, when I was talking about players come back to international duty, I mean, he'll be buzzing as well. Scotland qualifying for the Euros next summer, he'll be playing there. He's very much a part of that team. You know, O'Reilly, who's kind of on the outskirts of the Denmark team with no guarantees. McGregor is definitely going to be playing in that next summer alongside McTominay and McGinn in the middle. Steve Clark's, you know, doing wonders with that team. So again, I think that'll keep him, you know, really buzzing for the rest of the season. Because again, that's something that he's going to look forward to. As much as I see us fans, maybe like a lot of fans, national football can't bother, but the players, they want to play in these types of tournaments. They want to have these big moments. So that's something further down in the season. There's business first, Callum, that we need to deal with, but something to look forward to. But I expect he'll have a spring in his step for the rest of the season over that. But up front, there was talk of Palmer picking up a knock through the international break there. Was there any further news on that one, Liam, or if anyone in the chat can verify? Because I did hear he played a blinder and an assist for playing for Honduras against Mexico. Brilliant ball over the top. Good finish for the boy that scored it. We talked about it on Sunday Blether, me and David. We were talking about potential striker options. We were talking about the boy that scored the goal. But it was a great assist. But yeah, then I've seen a story that Palmer might have picked up a wee knock as well. Well, let's hope that's not true, Liam, because that would just be our bloody luck this season with the knocks, isn't it?
That ball he put through was absolutely brilliant. It was one of his, like he did it after the outside of his foot, you know, just sort of pinged it right at him, and boy took it down and hit it off his chest and then straight in at the goal. I mean, I don't know how, if we could use Kyogo for something like that, you know, see that ball again. But, you know, the Hulk Hogan tackles we get, you know, and so I think definitely Palmer. Palmer's looking good. If he's fit, he's got to start. I've liked Yang. I think same as well. Kyogo up front, and then just build around that. What I'd like to see is for us to try and put this to bed early, and then get Callum McGregor off the park. He's playing too much football.
Yeah,
so
that's...
get Iwata on, and let's see what we can build early. See if we can get it's half time of that, but we need to start protecting Callum McGregor a bit as well. I think he'll want to play every game, and surprised that he played so much for Scotland over the break.
Yeah, well, I've noticed that recently there has been more like moments where McGregor's been getting subbed off in games. Don't know if you've picked up on it. It's been happening, and you've drawn a comparison before on this because you're not the biggest Scott Brown fan, and one of your big sort of like pet peeves with the Scott Brown stuff is he played on a bit too long. He was always in the team, especially in that ill-fated season we try not to talk about, where it was like he was detrimental to the team as well at times, and it was like him playing all the time was not working. And it's like you don't want Callum McGregor to fall into that category where he becomes a detriment because he's just run into the ground. And because I mean, he's going to be here for a good few more years. He's going to remain as a captain. In fact, I don't see him leaving, getting sold at this stage in his career. So I can't see that, but I can see him, very much. But you don't want him to be. So you need to start managing him a wee bit better at this point, don't you, Liam?
Well, especially with Scotland doing well, and by the way, we've got to start signing some Scottish players. I mean, the international camp. If we want to be serious in Europe, we've got to be serious about signing some good Scottish players as well, and not just taking running with it. I always thought that we should be taking, that project money that we spend on guys like Quan and things.
Yes.
That should be our Scottish allocation. That's if we're going to experiment and we're going to look and try and find diamonds in the rough. Let's try them at home. We know they don't have to bed in. They know the support of their family. It's actually a much better investment, because they understand the league. They understand, the thing. And so let's start our investment there. Trying to sound like Nigel Farage or anything. But you know what I mean? It's like we take too many of these projects on, and then they're hard to sell unless you sell them back to their country. And you're snapping them up at such a profit that you've ripped him off already.
Yeah, it's a fair shout because a lot of fans will point out. I remember back in the summer window when people like myself and Russell were talking about all the big players that we thought we were going to sign and this and that. There was always people within our live chat kept pointing out about, look, we need to have X amount of Scottish players to register for the UEFA squad, because if you don't meet that quota, then you can't register all your foreign players. And we've seen that with like the Bhoycie Bus getting registered and all that. There's been a couple of guys have had to be left aside. Not that it mattered much because in the European campaign we've flopped pretty hard. But it is still quite annoying if you go and spend a decent wage of cash on somebody like the Bhoycie, who was a best part of 3.5-4 million. And he didn't get registered, and he also had an injury as well. But we need to have a Scottish contingent. But this is where the conundrum comes in, and in the Scottish League in particular, like who? I know Lawrence Shanklin's name came up. We were talking about it last Sunday. Me and David were looking at names, and I was like, well, my opinion on it was, and I still remain this is still my stance on it. Would he do well if he played for Celtic? I think he would, because he does score goals, and we have a lot of the ball, a lot more than Hearts have, and make a lot of chances. But do I think he would be a Celtic player? No, I don't. I don't think one Celtic would make a move. I think Hearts would be very difficult to deal with. And I don't think it's one of those transfers where if we did approach them and Hearts knocked it back, he would then maybe force a move through. However, if the other side of Glasgow went and made a move and Hearts knocked it back, I've got a funny feeling that he might make a move and push it through there himself. But anyway, that's the problem you've got, though, Liam, is when you look at the Scottish League, it's like, where? So then you need to look at Lennoxtown, the B team, what are we producing there? And again, it's like, I've went over this so many times, but the system they're playing in just doesn't work. It just isn't developing players. And it's no wonder that their contracts run down and they go away to play in the reserves at teams like Liverpool and Bayern Munich and stuff like that. But realistically, Ben Doak has been a bit of a rarity. But there was a boy Morrison who went to Bayern Munich, and it's like, is he realistically going to get in Bayern Munich's team? Probably not, but he's playing in a competitive division now in the reserve league in Germany, or he gets loaned out and it helps his development rather than playing in the 5th or the 6th tier of Scottish football against part-timers on terrible surfaces, and so it's like, what a conundrum Celtic find themselves in, where it's like, how do you boost these Scottish? And that's why we see things like James Forrest still hanging around. Mikey Johnston, despite now declaring for Ireland, would still count as a homegrown talent. So that's why James McCarthy's been kept. I bet you forgot James McCarthy was even a player.
Ben, I'm sure he just got the contract,
Yeah.
So I'll put up the nets and fucking, it's good laugh in the change room, but he signs that Scottish thing, Yeah. One of the things where you just got to,
I know.
I'm still laughing Greg Taylor getting a game. Anyway.
Pam Carney and James McCarthy. Exactly. Like I heard them get mentioned through the week. I was watching the Celtic Way, and thanks somebody in that, like Tony Haggart or something, mentioned James McCarthy, and I was like, I forgot James McCarthy was even at Celtic. Like, genuinely, it's like so. And again, it goes back to what Brendan said through the week about the squad and trimming the numbers. And these are the type of guys that we need to be looking to get off the books, because I think he said the first team squad right now is about 32, 33 players. It's way, way too much. Guys, I need a minute of game time like McCarthy. So these guys have got to go. But yeah, that's something we can talk about. But let's talk about before we talk about what else has happened this week, Liam, because we'll need to address our thoughts on the AGM stuff. But prediction for tomorrow then, Motherwell at home, comfortable victory for the boys, 11 points clear come 5 p.m.
Yeah, 4-1.
4-1. Nice one, nice. I'll go for, let's see, I usually do they feed 2-0. I'll go for 3-0 this time. I'll go 3-0 in this one, after we did against Aberdeen. And hopefully I don't miss any goals tomorrow, but yeah, it's going to be absolutely Baltic in the stadium. I'm going to have to wrap up very, very, very warm to sit through that one. So hopefully Celtic give you something to keep me warm and entertained throughout it, because there's nothing worse than if you're there and it's just a dreadful game up against 10 men behind the ball, can't break them down, and it's just perishingly cold. So hopefully, nice early goal tomorrow. I always keep saying about the early goals, so crucial. You get that, the whole game plan's out the window. But let's talk about plans. And the AGM was obviously this week. Say Mark and Russell did a very, very good reaction/anger show about it. Definitely check it out. But yeah, Liam, from where you are in the world, over in Vancouver, what was your reaction to it when you heard all the news? Was it more of just like, nothing surprises me with what they said there at all, or was there anger on your side of things, or how were you feeling about it?
I mean, how many times are you going to watch the same movie with the same ending and think it's going to turn out somehow different?
Yep.
They're not going to come out and tell you that they're doing a bad job or they've got things to do, or, here's where we can improve. They're looking at that bank balance and thinking that they've done their job. And there's a whole lack of self-awareness within that board. And again, guys have all talked about it. And by the way, I just want to say, podcast Russell and Mark did, and that's one of the best Celtic football podcasts I've listened to. Not listened to, still listen to like Cynic and Tim's and 20-minute Tim's and all that. And there's a lot of them I like to listen to, and and that's how I found you guys as well. And I thought that show that they did, that was a really, really good conversation, especially with somebody like Phil living overseas, where you're not as close to it. You got a good understanding of it, and you get much more of it listening to podcasts like these. But it really sort of opens it up when you see just sort of like how poor that board is. And I've always said to you before, I work in communications and advertising, and I've worked with big firms and all that, where you were trying to get brand and that across. And the amount, like, they're so poor at communicating with a fan base that there's like one of these things where they've built up a thing where your audience becomes your enemy. You see that's a very political type thing where politics take on this sort of emotional aspect where all of a sudden they look at everybody that's not them as against them, and those against them are all the enemy. And I really, really think there's that arrogance that comes across with this board, and it just touches everything they put their hands to, and there's nobody that's telling them they're doing a bad job because they're so insulated from it within those, by not having to have any criticism thrown at them and having to defend that they can show up at that and swagger in and drop the Rangers jokes and
I know,
like thinking that they're just like we're all dafties. And that is an arrogance. It's unbelievable. And it's the same arrogance you see in politics. And, you know, I've never heard their boards been called Tories before. But Christ's sake, they bloody act like it, huh?
Yeah, they certainly are. Some the reports through the week, because there was conflicting reports on Twitter. There was somebody who was within the attendance that was his messages that were coming out on Twitter seemed to be very different from other people who were attending and saying no, it's not happened at all. I'll say this: when I was reading some of the questions that got thrown at them, I was surprised because I thought it would be a very sort of placid event where nobody would probe them on things like the transfer policy. I thought it would all just be a formality. They turn up, they do the whole voting, Peter Lawwell and his chairman or whatever, do all that first. And then, it's just nothing really interesting happens. I was quite surprised when I began reading things on Twitter as it was happening about they've just been questioned. There was one in particular, a question came up where a guy dug up a hell of a deep cut reference when he went back to the Stevie Fletcher, Willow Flood transfer window, the infamous one that, you know, still gets quoted to this day. I think I mentioned it on a podcast last week. I think I mentioned it on Sunday when I was talking to David. And it's like that's the one when Peter Lawwell did when after the event had happened, the January window, where he came out and says, you know, we tried to buy, but nobody wants to sell, and that's where the whole the January window is a really difficult one for us to do business in. That's where that's always came from. And I did find it interesting a few weeks ago that Brendan Rodgers, he said all the right things at a press conference about adding quality, but then he threw that Peter Lawwell line in there about the January window is difficult. So it's almost like they're preparing you for it could be more of the same. And I just, again, looking at the European stuff, like domestically, we're still the top team. And for a lot of fans, that's cool. That's fine for them. And they love it. I love lording it over Rangers. Well, I love winning the league. I love winning trophies. I'm very privileged to be a season ticket holder and I get a chance to go and see these games and see us winning trophies. But I also want to see us just make a bit of a mark again in Europe. And it's not, I'm not asking us to get to a final and win it. I'm so sick of like what we've been seeing recently. Because again, I can remember, you know, over a decade ago when nobody was coming to even Celtic Park. I mean, the away record has always been pretty poor in Europe for Celtic, but at home it was such a fortress. And I don't know how the board can sit and watch the performances this season and even going back last season and just kind of go, this is fine. This is absolutely fine. I think I compared it to that meme where the guy's sitting and everything's on fire around him. And he's just drinking his coffee going, this is fine. We're getting 6 goals put past us by Atletico Madrid, who, they are a good team. But are Atletico Madrid going to win the Champions League? No, they're not. They're not the best team in Europe. And we just absolutely fell apart. There was no fighting. It was just like the investment, it doesn't even need to be, and again, this is a point I made before, it doesn't need to be stupid amounts of money we're spending. I know Peter Lawwell quoted the whole Everton thing as an example, which I thought was a crazy example to do because there are many, many differences to that. And I know Russell went over that through the week as well. But I just feel like our scouting system, Liam, has just gone to pot. Essentially, where are the Berham Kayals and the Victor Wanyamers, the Emilio Izaguirres, guys that we didn't spend a huge fortune on, but came in and were phenomenal for us? It feels like something's changed massively along the way, and we can't seem to find that spark again where we don't need to pay 7, 8, 9 million. Yeah, I mean, Edouard was the biggest spend we've ever had on a player, and Edouard was brilliant for us. But again, I know Celtic can't necessarily maintain spending, bringing in 5, 6 players every window at that money. But again, we don't need to spend that type of money. And it just feels like how the board can sit there and watch the performances in Europe and just go, it's fine. As long as we're better than them across the city and we win the league again this season and bank more cash next summer when we're in the Champions League again. It's like, again, from a season ticket point of view, it's just like, I'm going to these European games. I'm spending big money to go to these European games, and I'm just getting served up just the same old thing. And unfortunately, and the only way it's going to happen is, and this is where they've got us, Liam. This is where it becomes a conundrum for fans like me. We know that we need to be there and support the team, and boycotting, which is a word that's been thrown around, a lot of fans saying time for a boycott and all that, but it's like, it's easier said than done because you love the team, but you hate the guys that are sitting in the stand. It's like, what do you do? How do you go about it, Liam?
I'd hate to. I mean, even my position here in Canada, I couldn't boycott Celtic. Wasn't for going to sneaking in to see Celtic with my pals during lockdown. I wouldn't have survived here, you know. Things like that. We've got such an emotional investment in this club. For us to do any sort of boycott that means not going to see something that you love, that's heartbreaking that it's come to that sort of, the decision making. This is a board that just refused to communicate with the fans. They believe that we're all one family, but they treat us like they're a psychotic family member. That's not how you treat people where your investment is love of something that you all love together and are trying to build. And that's it. They've got so disconnected. But we've got an absentee landowner. And enough of us have enough relationships through this club to know how that turns out as well. It's no good from one side of the ocean. It's no good for this side of the ocean.
Yeah.
I don't think Desmond's heart's in it. It might be, I don't know what it is. It's a plaything. It's like the same way Rod Stewart likes Celtic or somebody like that, where it ticks a lot of the boxes and it seems a good idea until he has to stand shoulder to shoulder with people that actually support Celtic and can have a conversation about Celtic. You can walk into any Celtic bar in the world and talk to anybody. That's it. And I've been, fortunate enough to do that. I travelled with my work all through the States and Europe at one point, and I was able to go to bars in Warsaw and Prague and Bulgaria and New York and anywhere, and immediately, whether that person was from Scotland or Sri Lanka or however they found their way into Celtic, you could have a conversation with that person and you were on the same page. Right away, you had all these great shortcuts because you'd shared values and things like that. This board, I don't know, just don't seem to share our values. They don't. No. But they like all the colour. They like all the stuff that's around it. The values maybe suggest to them that might up their profile. We already walk it. They just want to be it. And right now, they're going about it the wrong way. Sure, they've all got Celtic people and their families and all that support the club, but it's no them. Otherwise, they'd be out there talking to the fans. I mean, Celtic should have a thing with either Lau, any one of them, or anybody in a position that out there to come and talk to the fans. Fuck all this tea time with Greg and who's your favourite, who's the best, and shite. Communicate with the fans in a fucking adult measure. It's not like people aren't handing over cash for this service. It's not free. And so you know what? Have some respect for your customers and your fans and get them and out there and tell them what's happening so that we're not sitting here, me and you, guessing of what the strategy is for player sales and player marketing. That when we're taking in X amount of profits and then delivering 1% of that back into the club, where's all the money going? What are we saving it for? Fines. Because we're saving it for fines. Let's use up some of that money then. Create more spectators. More pyro, ridiculous like that if you wanted to be, because there's no communication. So it opens up any answer and all the answers, and I don't know. It's to me that AGM. I don't know. I'm not investing in it. Just like this year, I didn't invest watching this in Europe. I said, okay, I'm not. It's like lurking on an ex-girlfriend's Instagram or something. I'm not going out my way to get myself all hyped up about Lazio, who's going to play, what's the pairings going to be, because they didn't take it seriously at the beginning. So, and it hurt. But still going with my pals and watch it or whatever. But I don't care if it wants that.
That's it.
It doesn't work now. You get jaded.
That's it. I know, you're just going through the same, as you say, you're looking at the same movie again and again and hoping that it ends differently, and it just doesn't at the moment. We're just stuck in this rut right now, and I don't know how it changes. I really don't. So I would like to hope there's some sort of miracle coming on midweek when we play Lazio, that we can claw our way back into this group and maybe somehow. But even at that, would we tool up in January for this assault on the knockout stages? Because remember, we still haven't won a knockout game after Christmas for 20 years. And it's like, geez, it would be a typically Celtic if we somehow qualify this group in third place and get a Europa League spot, and then just again in January don't do anything and get knocked out by some like low-ranked team in the Europa League last 32 or whatever. It would just be like we lost to Copenhagen, or when we lost to Bodo Glimt in the Conference League a couple of years ago, and it's it'd just be so typical of us to do something like that. I say we'll deal with the European stuff when it comes around on Tuesday night, I believe we're playing Lazio. So, well, I think history might repeat itself again. Well, hopefully we can get another victory out in Italy. But yeah, I got a funny feeling it's going to be more recent history. We're going to see where the way this group's panned out. Yeah, could be an uncomfortable watch, but we'll deal with that when we come to it. But yeah, everything you said there is spot on, and the boycott and stuff like, you know, how all these people understand is money. It was interesting though that you did bring up the stuff about like the Green Brigade standoff and all that. I found it interesting, you know, that a good few years ago, I remember the board were more than happy to profit in the Superstore with a big like picture in a frame, and it was the Barcelona game when the Green Brigade arranged a full stadium display all around, and it was like, you know, you could buy this framed picture, like a panoramic, you know, photo of the stadium with that display, and it's like, oh, you're happy to profit on, you know, things like that. And this is years ago, before what's happened this season happened, because in all the time that I've been a season ago, there's been many fallings out between the board and the Green Brigade, where there was a period, I think 2014, where they get banned for a wee while, and as a result, I jumped up the queue in the away tickets allocation. I'm getting to a load of away games that season, but then they all seem to make up on it. But this one at the moment is... it's a total minefield, this one, like between them, what's going on. Say, well, I've seen something through the week where there was a mention that they have got a meeting coming up with somebody inside the board, might even be Michael Nicholson, because I know that the North Curve have put out a lot of communication about they've been requesting a meeting for a while, but there is some sort of meeting coming up, so we'll see what comes of that, and hopefully it all gets sorted. But yeah, I did find it interesting. Again, we're talking about money being the be all and end all. They're more than happy to profit off them when they need to, isn't they, Liam?
So it's funny, our Christmas video this year, I mean, I know a lot of people liked it because, again, you get to see behind the scenes, you see the players, and it's all that. But my God, they don't miss a trick, do they? That was the most commercial thing I've ever seen. That was a Superstore commercial. I make TV commercials. I've done Christmas ads. This is me. That's a department store ad. They've got a checklist of toys and jerseys and all that shit that they want to sell this year, you know, because again, they've got to know enough money in the bank. They want to get all your Christmas shopping money as well. So, you know, we're going to put every single toy we can. That will be the narrative, that we've got more stuff to sell you. It was nothing about fans a Merry Christmas. It was about seeing how we could get them in and walking out with more merchandise, like remote control cars and helicopters. Our name on it, you know.
Some Brendan Rodgers autobiographies there, I hear, on the discount price as well, because that advert was also like, out of all the ones they've done, that was one of the most boring ones. But the wee joke at the end, I did chuckle at that with the blowing the dust off of the Brendan Rodgers autobiography. But yeah, it just wasn't that great this year. But
I think they missed a trick. I think I liked the Brendan Rodgers thing. I thought that was okay. Bit too dusty for something that should be in a shop, but anyway.
Yeah,
in that a wee bit, right? He's not been gone for like decades. I mean, like, what are you doing with your shop? I would have had all the new players and all that going through the jersey, right, and then coming across a McCarthy one, and then just all I'm going,
who's this guy?
You know?
Aye. that would actually be quite good. Like, who? That'd be the exact same. I said, I heard them mention through on a podcast for the week. I generally forgot. I said, oh, gosh, right, he still plays for Celtic, or he's still at Celtic. Doesn't play for them. But yeah, and anyway, we're coming up to about 5 minutes to go, so I think it's time, Liam, for you to play a wee game.
Right.
By the numbers, yes, it's back. So far, we've had the judge and we've had David play it. I just sprung it on David. Poor, unsuspecting David. Oh, I've got a new segment tonight, Dave. It's called By the Numbers. Didn't tell him it was a quiz, because he would have ran a mile if I told him. But yeah, it's also my new Friday night thing as well. Because, of course, if you know your history of the Bhoycie Bus, you remember that the Friday night show was a quiz initially, the Double Doing quiz. That's how myself, Liam, David, all of us ended up on this channel, because we came on, viewers were brought on to talk with Russell about what had happened to Celtic that week, and they did a quiz at the end. And and if some of us have obviously stuck around a bit longer. So, but yeah, now I'm keeping that tradition going. Going to bring quizzes back to the Friday night. So yeah, by the numbers, Liam. So obviously, I don't need to ask you, have you watched it? Because you were on last time when Marc played, so you saw how it worked. But for those who haven't watched it yet, it's basically a bit of a play on the game show from the 90s, Bruce's Play Your Cards Right. I always get Play Your Cards Right and Prices Right. So it's Play Your Cards Right. Obviously, you've got to get across the board, Bruce would turn the card around higher or lower, whatever card was before it. But I'm using Celtic shirt numbers. So it's a case of I will show Liam a shirt number. It could be anything, because Celtic shirt numbers go very, very deep. They go all the way up to 99 sometimes. And it'll just be a case if he guesses higher or lower, but the next one will be. So he obviously gets a point for that. And of course, there will be a question about the player whose shirt comes up, and he's got to get that right as well. So far, Mark and David have scored 6 out of 10. They got 4 right on the higher or lower guesses and 2 right on their questions. So as I say, Liam, the bar is not that high. So I'll set up the aesthetics. I'll get us in the Sutton Dev studio, and we shall do it, mate. We shall get a wee game going of by the numbers. Although I need to share the screen, and it's always a nightmare trying to get the share screen to work. It is easy for you to see. Right. So I want to go to present, share screen, and we want to pick that one. Okay, Liam. So can you see the by the numbers graphic? Nice one, mate. Okay, so cool. So as I say, the first one that comes up will be the starting number for you. This is one you don't need to answer a question. This is like your starting shot number, and then from there it's guessing higher or lower and then getting a question on said player. So shot number 1, your starter number is 23, Mikel Lustig. Pretty good number to get. So next shot will be higher or lower. Liam, what do you think?
I think the next shot will be lower.
Lower than a 23. It is 10. Anthony Stokes, mate. A question on Stokesy. So, Anthony Stokes scored his first Celtic Park goal against which team? Aberdeen, Motherwell, or was it against Celtic?
I'm going to go against Celtic.
You would be right. His first goal at Celtic Park was for Falkirk against Celtic. So yes, it's one of those ones why that answer's in there. You would think that's in there for a reason. But yes, Celtic is a correct answer. So higher or lower than a 10, Liam?
Higher.
Higher than a 10. It is 35. Big Johan Mjalby. And decent number to get as well. Okay, so Johan Mjalby, question on him. Johan Mjalby scored in the opening game of which of these international tournaments? Euro 2000, World Cup 2002, or Euro 2004?
First one.
It was Euro 2000. He scored in the game between Sweden and Belgium. He netted, and Belgium won the game 2-1, but he scored Sweden's goal. So yes, correct. 2 out of 2 so far. You're on 4 points already with your guesses and your questions. So, higher or lower than a 35?
Lower.
Lower than a 35. It is 9. It's big Georgios Samaras, mate. A favourite on the bus. Samaras joined which English Premier League team after he left Celtic? Was it Newcastle, West Brom, or Wolves?
West Brom.
It was West Brom, yeah. Perfect score so far, Liam. You're doing good, mate. Okay, so higher or lower than a 9?
Higher.
Higher than a 9. It is 67, Victor Wanyama. A hell of a good number to get. Victor Wanyama currently plies his trade in the MLS for one of the Canadian teams, but which one? Montreal, Vancouver, or Toronto?
Montreal.
It is Montreal. Yes, Liam, you're on the verge of a perfect game here, mate. You're on the verge. So, higher or lower than a 67, mate?
You know, part of me wants to be like, just go say, oh, higher. No, I'll go lower. I'll go lower.
He's going to be lower than a 67. It's 18. It's Neil Lennon. So, the question on Lennon, to get a perfect game, Liam, a perfect game. Neil Lennon, he didn't score many goals for Celtic in competitive games, only scored 3 in fact. But strangely, his first and his last goals were scored against the same team. Was it Hibs, Dundee United, or Dunfermline?
Hibs.
It was Dunfermline. He scored against Hibs. He did score a goal against Hibs, but he scored against Dunfermline. But Liam, you've scored, and you are well top of the leaderboard now. Only one score can beat you. You've got 9 out of 10. You got 5 out of 5 on your higher or lower guesses, and you get 4 out of 5 in your questions, mate. So it is the score to beat. So you've absolutely wiped the floor with David and Mark after their efforts. So you're way up in the top there, mate. Absolutely flying, mate. Flying. So well done, Liam. Told you you'd do all right, mate.
Top of the table.
Top of the table, mate. Exactly. And you plan on staying there. So, so there's only one score now that can beat you. Somebody has to come on and get a perfect game. So, yeah, we'll. Obviously, I'm going to try and get other members of the Bhoycie Bus team if they come on the Friday failing, they'll need to play it to register a score. And say maybe someday, like we did before, how we opened up the Bhoycie, or how Russell opened up the bus to viewers to come on. You never know. Maybe a viewer one day will come on and play it as well. Maybe we'll get that and get you guys added to the scoreboard in some way. But that's something down the line that we'll look at. And yeah, with that being said, that's us been on for an hour now. And yeah, we're going to head off now. And yeah, so enjoy the game tomorrow if you're going, like myself, and definitely do wrap up Warham. I say the Arctic Blast is coming, so we better be ready for that one. Liam, what time will it be for you over in Vancouver when the game kicks off? Not too bad, a 3 o'clock kickoff in here.
Aye, 7 a.m. That's no bad.
That's not bad. That's all right for you. That's no bad.
You just get so conditioned to that. I look forward to the 4 o'clock ones because doesn't interfere with the rest of my day, and you get your mind wandering about the middle of the night, you know.
Aye, no, that's funny enough. I've got a wee comment I need to bring up here. Timmy Bing saying the beard of knowledge. That's why I call him the wise man of the bus. Kind of feel him the wise man because he knows. But there you go, Liam top of the board. But yeah, we will head off. So enjoy the game tomorrow, Liam, when you get to watch it. And I say I'll be there to see it in the freezing cold. But if you're going, of course, enjoy it as well. Wherever you watch the game, hopefully it's another rousing victory for Celtic. We go 11 points clear. Put the pressure on the old enemy across the city. Keep them on their toes. And yeah, so we will. PMP will be on tomorrow. It's going to be an interesting one to say the least. It's going to be a bit different, I believe, from any other PMP you might have watched. So that'll be worth tuning in for. I'm not going to say too much more on that one. You'll just need to tune in to watch it. But yes, I believe there's something different happening tomorrow on PMP. But the link will go up. And of course, if you're wondering when it'll be on, if you hit the subscribe button and hit that bell notification, you will know when it's on because you'll be notified accordingly. But yeah, so folks, enjoy the game. Good luck to Celtic tomorrow. And hail, hail. And we will catch you later, folks. See yous.
Hey, Steve-O. You know.